In this video, I'm going to break down the NAR settlement and combat the misinformation from mainstream media to the consumers today. I'm going to share how it affects the consumers, how it affects you as the realtor, and what are the 4 actions you must take to succeed as a realtor in these turbulent times today. The NAR, National Association of Realtors, had a class action lawsuit against them over the last few years because of the antitrust law in conspiracy to fixing commissions and artificially keeping them inflated, which, according to the lawsuit and according to misinformation as well, that's the reason why home prices have been steadily rising. Recently, the NAR settled over $400 million settlement with the class action, and it promised to make different practices going forward for the body of realtors. Now, one practice going forward in particular is that you can no longer offer a co-broke commission to a buyer's agent on the multiple listing service. Now, you'll be able to continue to offer a commission to buyer's agents. 2 parts are going to change with this settlement. Part number 1, you can no longer offer a co-broke commission on the multiple listing service. But number 2 is, before anyone shows a home to a buyer, meaning a realtor shows a home to a buyer, they must sign a buyer's representation form for their state. Now, this has been common practice for most successful realtors for several decades now. However, it wasn't required, and most realtors have not been doing this. So it'll be quite the change for most realtors. What's going on in the media surrounding this settlement is a bunch of lies, quite honestly. You're seeing headlines from CNN, MSNBC, even coming from the White House administrative, that are describing the settlement completely different than what the settlement actually is. For example, CNN said that this 6% listing is going away. President Biden, he suggested that it's the first time that NAR has agreed that home buyers and sellers can negotiate lower commissions, and using it in his campaign to suggest buyers will save over $10,000 in a commission and make homes more affordable. Which, by the way, if a home reduced the price by $10,000, it changes the monthly payment by about $17 a month. Not much savings when you look at it like that. So you're going to continue to see lies amongst the media in attempt to control a narrative against the National Association of Realtors, which is very destructive because it confuses the consumer and it confuses realtors as well. So the lie affects the consumers because it confuses them in what really is going on and how the economics of a real estate transaction works. When a real estate agent or realtor is hired, their objective is to find the one buyer on planet Earth willing to pay more for the house than anyone else when it represents the seller. And one of the best ways to do that is that a listing agent can go to co-broke to all the other realtors in the marketplace and say, hey, I've got this home for sale, bring me a buyer and I'll pay you a commission. Now, if that buyer's agent doesn't get a compensation, he's probably not that excited to go show the home. But what you're saying is, I'm going to pay you so that then the buyer or buyer's agent will go to work, find a buyer, and bring it to the house. Hence what is called a co-broke compensation. So what consumers now may be confused of doing is because this is insinuating that buyers will have to always pay their own commission, which is not true. In some cases, which has always been the case, buyers pay their own commission. But going forward, it will not be the only way to be able to be represented by a buyer's agent is if you pay your own commission. There's going to be several different ways that the deal is negotiated, but this confusing information then is going to probably lead a lot of buyers to try and go at it on their own and not be represented. Whereas if I've got the listing and you are unrepresented and you come to me, I am going to jack the price up as high as I possibly can, and my seller's going to win and you're going to lose as the buyer. The lies affect agents by simply confusing what's actually changing. Now, as you see the lawsuit being settled, you're confused on, well, how will the real estate deal continue going forward? And the truth is, it'll be quite simple. The only thing that changes is when you put your listing in the multiple listing service, it will no longer show a commission offering in there. And when you go to search for homes on the multiple listing service, it will no longer offer a commission in the multiple listing service. Commissions will now be negotiated as part of the transaction. So you have one option where you write the offer and the seller is willing to pay all of the commissions. You have a second option where the seller will pay their commissions and the buyer will pay their commissions. You have a third option where it's already pre-negotiated up front with the seller and the listing agent. They will offer a co-broke commission, and so that the buyer's agent will receive a commission from the listing agent. And then the fourth is there'll be a combination of all of these where maybe the seller contributes, the buyer's agent receive some from the buyer, and the listing agent contributes some as well. And so you'll see those four principal ways of how the real estate transaction will continue to occur and compensation is paid throughout the transaction. This is what I would do if I was an active listing agent today. I would present to the seller the economics of the real estate transaction, and I would let them know that our chances of getting a much higher offer are the way we can expose it more to the marketplace. And that's going to happen by offering a buyer's agent commission to other co-brokers in the marketplace to bring us their buyers. If I was a buyer's agent, here's what I would do going forward. And I did this actively as a real estate agent as well, is I would meet all of my buyers up front and I would give a killer buyer presentation and I get a buyer agent representation signed up front, letting them know what my commission is and that they agree to it. I would let them know the different ways, as I suggested earlier, on how that compensation could get paid. And more than likely, 99% of the time, I'm still going to get paid by the listing agent or the seller. In certain scenarios, which have happened even before the settlement, the buyer actually compensated me for my commission because it was negotiated upfront in the contract. And so the biggest thing that you're going to have to change is having upfront presentations with your buyers and getting a buyer agency signed from the start before you show any homes. So all of this has created a bunch of confusion from all of the headlines inside of mainstream media, and like I mentioned before, even from President Biden's election campaign. And what it's done is caused a giant distrust in the realtor community, basically saying you're worthless. So here's what you must do in order to earn the trust of the consumer. So number one is be a figure of authority. What does that look like? Well, you first have to completely understand what the facts are of the NAR settlement and what it means to you as the realtor and to the buyer and to the seller. Number two is in your marketing, whether it's on social media or in your one-on-one conversations with your clients, you need to be able to explain in detail this exact thing that's going on and the mistrust in the media. In fact, this is a really great time that to be a figure of authority, to be reaching out to your past clients, to your sphere of influence, and to continue to be talking about this subject because a lot of people are confused. Number two is you must master your buyer and seller presentation. And the most important thing in this is number one, is to explain the economics of the real estate transaction. Number two though, get your contract or your agency signed in the first meeting before you go do any work either for the seller or the buyer, which means you must practice on a regular basis right now. How do I actually give that presentation and ask for the signature to get signed? So as far as mastering your sales and communication skills on how you present, what that looks like is spend 30 to 45 minutes a day as if you're presenting to the buyer or the seller and exactly what you would say and how you would explain it and even ask to get the contract signed. And then what you're going to find out is you're going to learn that there's a lot of ways you can improve in your communication skills. But the more you practice, the better you're going to get and the more successful you're going to get at securing the contract. Number three, the third step that you've got to be able to do is you've got to learn to create multiple revenue streams in the changing and shifting real estate economy. Because the traditional methods and the traditional world order of real estate has come to an end, and it's now beginning what I call the new world order of real estate. Now, a few ways that you can do this is number one is understand that information and infopreneurship is being exchanged and you can actually create an online brand and represent yourself as a figure of authority. Number two, you can actually go ahead and monetize in this infopreneurship space by selling digital courses, mentorship, teaching other real estate agents or even buyers and sellers how to do things in exchange for a paywall up front where they're actually paying you differently than maybe you're used to over the years. Number three, you can partner with a real estate brokerage, something like Real Brokerage, where you can build a revenue share network where you're getting compensated for bringing other realtors inside of your brokerage, and you also can earn equity stake inside of the company. And then the fourth thing that you must do in order to ensure that you succeed through these turbulent times is you must be positive and be kind, because the reality is we are in a confusing time for both the buyer, the seller, and the realtor, and a lot of people are going to have some high and negative emotions. Now, my recommendation is be kind. Don't get wrapped into threads online where you're back and forth keyboard warrior and getting into spitting facts of what's right or what's wrong in the transaction, or what's right or what's wrong in comments, because no one's going to win inside of the comments. So be kind and be positive and watch how that becomes infectious in your place in the marketplace. So in the link down below, go ahead and click, and there is a link for an invitation to a 15-minute business discovery call with my team. And in that conversation, what we're going to do is we're going to really break down where your business is and help you create a blueprint from where you are to where you're going to create residual revenue and your roadmap to 7 figures. So during this call, what we're going to do basically is learn about you and your business and what has to adjust in the new world order of real estate to make absolutely certain that you thrive in the challenging time ahead. If this video was valuable for you, go ahead and hit that like button, share it to a friend so they can understand what this NAR lawsuit is all about and what they must do to be successful as well in the turbulent times. And make sure to head and drop a comment down below. For more content like this, watch this next video where I share how I went from working one-on-one with buyers and sellers, and even as a mentor, to going into what I call the one-to-many space, to where now I have, as an infopreneur, many clients that I work with at one time. And here's the real benefit, is I can work fewer hours and I can earn more dollars per hour. It's actually created a geographic location where I can make money anywhere in North America, and I don't have to work more hours driving through traffic. You'll enjoy it. Watch that video. And absolutely make sure to subscribe for more videos like this.